Um, and when it comes to people investing their money, do you usually tell them to stay away from the banks and to take charge themselves with things that they can do? Because it's funny, when I left banking, I had all my bankers that covered me always trying to sell me these financial products they created. And I was like, what are you, crazy? I used to create these and I know what they take out of these trades. Like, I don't want any of your cooked up, stuff, radioactive, toxic things you want to sell me. And I always triing to take it back myself and make my own decisions. Is that what you try to encourage people to do?
Oh, absolutely. I remember when, in the wake of the financial crisis, I actually, I'd been in New York, and I owned a place in New York, and I sold it around that time, and I used some of that money because I was also in journalism now at this time, so I'd used some of it to kind of just as an exercise, not because I actually wanted to give them access to most of what I had, invested it with mutual funds at JP Chase, just for the sheer experiment of it. And I watched how they managed that little portion of my money with what actually I could have done. And they lost a lot of money on my money. It was just, again, an exercise, but I wound up having these calls with the various advisors and stuff, who are helping little people invest their money and stuff. And I was like, how is it possible that in this scenario, you lost money, whereas the market actually, this was right before the crisis, the market actually went up. How is it possible that what did you have to do to actually lose money and I have to pay a fee to you in order for you to lose my money? And they didn't have, there's no answer to that, but except for the fact that banks are still set up, as they were in the Enron and WorldCom days, to effectively make fees out of converting their depositors, converting their clients to people that want more complicated esoteric products and want to pay for management of their money and all this other kind of stuff. And they don't get paid on how they perform, they just get paid on the volume and the amount. And so from my perspective, even a savings account, a regular bank like JP Chase, rates are very low now, it pays literally nothing on your savings account, whereas you could put savings in an online bank like an Ally or an Aspiration or even American Express savings, and you could get closer to, in the US, 2% versus 0 or 0.25%. And so even in things where banks should be paying people to continue to be with them, they don't have to because they're so big. But in those scenarios, I don't have any savings with a bank.
Yeah.
For example.
Just keep it out.
There's just no point. Right.
Yeah. And that's why you've gone on with this 25-cent contract, to just show people how they can take control themselves, understand these products that trade every day and that are liquid, and be able to try to invest and make money on some of these moves.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And interesting that you mentioned, I want to show people. I mean, there's very easy ways that I talk about to access these types of products, of 25-cent contracts and so forth, and to watch and to listen for recommendations. But I think always it's important for people to learn for themselves and to watch for themselves and to see how things go. If they're new to a product, to paper trade it for a minute, just to do all the things that ultimately preserve not just their money, but also teach them. I think that educational process is very, very important.
Yeah, so important. And again, we recorded this kind of private video that's not going to be available anywhere else. There's a link below where it's londonreal.tv/Nomi, Nomi, and you kind of go more into detail on how this 25-cent option trades works.
I think that we're starting the beginning of a prolonged period now of a recession or even worse.
Hi, it's Brian Rose from London Real. I recently sat down with Nomi Prins, the former Wall Street trader you would have seen on Fox, CNBC, and Bloomberg Television. She regularly advises the Federal Reserve, IMF, and World Bank on important financial policy matters.
I've realized over the years that people don't have the same exposure to trading systems on Wall Street. And so I looked at what are some of the ways that I can create something that regular people on the ground can use to access some of what Wall Street does all the time.
We had an incredible conversation, but what really stood out to me is her brand new 25-cent contract strategy, designed to leverage a little-known market anomaly that happens every day around 10 a.m., if you know what to look for.
The more comfortable you feel with financial elements, the better you'll be at managing them, and the more confident and empowered you'll be in your own life in any aspect of your life, not just with respect to money.
Now, as a former Wall Street trader, I am super excited to share this investment strategy for the very first time. As the host of this episode, I'm able to offer you exclusive rights to a seat at her 25-cent contract live training. But you must act now to secure your spot. So click on the link below or go to londonreal.tv/Nomi, that's Nomi, to secure your spot. And I will see you there.
I myself, my graduate degrees are in statistics and operations research, undergrad in math. So that was always, yes, my kind of angle into Wall Street relative to trading or sales, which was some of the other types of jobs on Wall Street. It was always about the math, the trends, the numbers, the securities, and how they behaved under certain conditions. And that's always what I looked at throughout my entire career on Wall Street. And I always also looked at the downside, not what happens if a trade works, but what happens if it doesn't work. What are the risks you should be looking for, and how can you best, sort of protect that investment for those risks? And so that's a lot. They're a very cheap way of taking an investment into the market, particularly in times of volatility, that take into account what the big sharks are doing, that take into account why volatility is happening, and presents a way for a person to take advantage of that scenario in a cheap way, and in a fast way, and in an easy way.